My name is Cristina Alvarado. Topic: The incidence of COVID-HIV patient. Introduction. COVID-19 is a serious disease and people living with HIV should recommend prevent much to reduce exposure and provide inflammation with the virus that causes COVID-19.
We know that older people whose immune systems are a little weaker and people who have medical issues or immune suppression are going to generally do worse with the infection. So if somebody has HIV and their immune system is weaker, meaning they're not on therapy or they're earlier on in their therapy and their CD4 count is still low, they may be at risk of having a worse reaction to the virus. If somebody has HIV and is on therapy and has a very strong immune system, the very early data we have so far is they seem to be doing okay. So we encourage people who have HIV to connect with their healthcare provider, get therapy, and take their medications regularly. The recommendations for monitoring have not changed. We ask that anybody on the planet who has symptoms at this time consistent with COVID-19 should contact their healthcare provider and see if they need to be tested.
Application in nursing. The people living with HIV are able to take the same provocation as the general population and to adhere to these specific government recommendations.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this IAS webinar, the first in a series about COVID-19 and HIV. This first one is really framed about what you need to know and a state-of-the-art update from three experts in terms of where we are today and what we know about COVID-19 and HIV. We're expecting a record-breaking audience for an IAS webinar today, so thank you for joining us. And just to let everybody know that the recording will be available as soon as possible and later this afternoon, we hope. My name is Dr. Lucy Stackpole-Moore. I'm the Director of HIV Programs and Advocacy with the International AIDS Society, and I'm delighted that you've joined us today for this webinar. Our aim for this discussion is to provide an opportunity to share the latest information about the pandemic and have a deeper look in particular at how it impacts on people living with HIV. We'd also really like to celebrate and applaud the work of healthcare workers, researchers, policymakers, and many of whom are IAS members, in fact, who are working tirelessly across the world to share their expertise that they've gained over many years in the response to HIV to be flexible, to be innovative, and to be effective in response to this new global pandemic. We are connecting, and the reason why we've chosen this time this morning is to really connect our colleagues in Asia with colleagues in Europe and Africa, and a bit later on today through the recording with colleagues in America, to really connect the expertise and the knowledge and the ingenuity, if you like, across the IS membership.
Post a cause. There is a people with HIV becoming serious. It's a guy in people with ALS for cell common, people who are not receiving 24 HIV, intraviral therapy are active. People with HIV may also have higher risk of becoming serious with COVID-19 based on the age and other medical conditions.
While we continue our coverage of the coronavirus, as well as that developing story that is currently underway at the OR Tambo International Airport, where 121 South Africans who are in Wuhan will be repatriated. The aircraft is expected to leave at around 9 o'clock later on this evening. But still sticking with the story of the coronavirus, HIV and TB sufferers not on treatment could be at risk if they contract the coronavirus, although there's not really enough information about how HIV-positive people and TB sufferers could be affected. Experts say those compromised immune systems could be at risk should the COVID-19 spread. To discuss this, we are now joined in studio by Professor Shabir Madhi, who is from the National Institute of Communicable Diseases. Professor, good evening and welcome to The Full View. Let's first start off with this developing story that we'll be speaking about this evening. What does this moment mean for South Africans, especially those 121 South Africans who want to return back to the country?
So good evening. So just a correction before we start. I was at the NICD. I'm no longer at the NICD. I'm at the University of Witwatersrand.
Okay, apologies.
So in terms of what we see transpiring right now, and in terms of the plan of repatriating the students from Wuhan, the manner in which it's being done is highly responsible. There's no better way in terms of manage the repatriation than what is being done at this point in time by the Department of Health, by the government. And the reason I say that is better knowing what is coming your way than not knowing what is coming your way. So as an example, the group of Italians that came back to the country, they didn't go into quarantine immediately, and hence they ended up manifesting symptoms, and it is possible they may or may not have infected other individuals. In this particular instance, what we've got is we've got a very controlled situation where the students will be coming back and they will be placed under quarantine for at least up to about 2 weeks, during which time they'll be monitored to determine whether or not they manifest any sort of symptoms of a respiratory illness, and if they do, they obviously would be investigated.
Issues at play in Ecuador. Coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 has already been described in what page well HIV in Wuhan, China, including clinical characteristics, antiviral and intraretroviral treatment and results. HIV party in general may has activity against the coronavirus, protect against treatment anti-war return to their normal regime. Conclusion. High COVID-19 offers people living with HIV is not just failure, and the two, currently there is no evidence to suggest that there is increased risk of infection and increased disease severity for people living with HIV. People living with HIV are advised to gauge the some provocation and the general population and to agree to their specific government recommendation.
Here in South Africa, we at the containment stage. As South Africa tries to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus, questions remain on the impact of COVID-19. Should it be contracted by those living with HIV? The country carries a heavy burden of the HIV virus, which is compounded by the problem of TB. Let's discuss this further, and we're joined on the line by Dr. Regina Orsi. She's a senior technical expert on TB and HIV at the Orem Institute. Doctor, thank you very much indeed for your time. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure to get you on the show. Always a pleasure to have fresh perspective and experts, because I guess we need to let science lead this charge in order to fight against COVID-19. So what we know in terms of what we hear from the WHO is that those who contract COVID-19, about 80% of those, they actually recover well. Those that need to be worried who are the elderly and those that have pre-existing conditions like heart disease, we talk about chronic lung disease, diabetes, etc. Talk to us about what the science says, what the data you have in front of you about those who have HIV and those who have TB. Are they more likely to be severely affected by COVID-19?
Well, unfortunately, we actually don't have a lot of experience right now, given where the epidemic has been raging, has not been really, there's a lot of HIV and TB. So we have very little experience on what the interaction between these two illnesses is going to be. We can tell from our sort of scientific background that, as you know, the HIV virus also attacks the immune system and reduces a certain type of immunity, which is called the CD4 system or the CD4 cells. Now, how that's going to interact with these other viral infections is going to be left up to figuring out once people actually